Hello and welcome. You may have noticed that I've hung out the bunting for today's guest by choosing a different musical intro. I have Jason J.G. Goldberg in the house today. Yay! For those of you who don't know Jason, he is a transformational speaker who has recently done a TEDx talk. He's also a coach, trainer, and international #1 best-selling author of Prison Break, Vanquish the Victim, Own Your Obstacles, and Lead Your Life. He's also the founder and chief humorizer at the Not So Serious University. And most importantly, Jason is a funky sock lover and a former rapper who opened for the Wu-Tang Clan. So in between telling bad jokes today, Jason and I are going to jam on people pleasing, why we do it, and how to stop it. Because when we overgive, we always attract takers. So grab your gangster t-shirt and your Converse Chuck Taylor All-Stars. Jason Goldberg, let's do this. JG, welcome.
What is going on, Mandit?
I'm so happy to have you in VoxyCast. Thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm super happy to be here. I'm upset that we're not on video so people can't see your gangster shirt with your cardigan over top of it.
I know.
The greatest thing.
I promise I'm going to take a picture of this because I felt there's a phenomena actually called embodied cognition. Sorry, I would get there eventually. And this is something that was discovered by a guy called Dr. Adam Galinsky. I'm going to geek out on you now, from Northwestern University, who says that our clothing choices actually affect our cognitive processes. So what that means is if we put on a gangster t-shirt, like I've got on, it can kind of set your psychological state up. And that's why people wear lucky pants, for example. Or underpants. We call them pants here in the UK.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
I say about socks. I mean, I have particular socks that are like my favorite socks. And like, so today I have to do some creative work. And so I have socks on that have like pencils. Like I'm totally with you on that.
I was going to ask you to describe your favorite pair of socks. So I guess it depends on what you're doing for the day, huh?
No, yeah, I can't do favorite pair of socks. That's like favorite kid. Like I can't and they can hear me because they're like a couple rooms away. I can't risk that, Mandy. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. You don't have any soul mates. Yeah, you see what I did?
No, sorry. I will never meet defeat.
That was a groaner. You have been warned, listeners, there's going to be a lot of bad jokes in this episode. But anyway, I digress. I thought we would start off our conversation with a bit of a doozy, which is people pleasing. And I don't think I'm exaggerating if I'm going to call this an epidemic. And so many of us trade who we really are for this fakey pants version of ourselves who tends to over yes and be compliant. And we do that so that we can be accepted and valued and just be okay. So our operating software is kind of like, what will people think? I mean, I know it feels pretty gross. I've done that before in the past. I'm trying. I'm a recovering people pleaser. Let's deconstruct this. Tell me a little bit about people pleasing, JG.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And it's something that I've had to work so hard on in my life. At least I thought I had to work hard on it earlier on. Now it doesn't feel like as hard of work because I recognize what it's kind of all about. But it really is this interesting thing where, to me at least, when I people please, the motivation is murky. Right. This is the thing, like the motivation is murky because it would be very easy for me to say, well, I do that because I want people to be happy. And while there's probably some truth to that, what typically is happening is that I want them to look at me a certain way. I want to be accepted. I want my enoughness to be validated. I want to be made whole. Or actually more, it's probably what's really happening is not so much what I want. It's more what I want to avoid. Right. I don't want to look a certain way. I don't want to feel empty. I don't want to feel alone. I don't want to feel not good enough. And so it's weird because I don't know that there's anything wrong. And we were kind of chatting about this before we started the podcast. I don't know if there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing things to make people happy. Like if I were to boil down kind of my mission for life and my work, it's to bring joy and happiness to every single person I meet in every situation I encounter. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that really is something that's core to my heart that I love. And I'm not naive enough to think that some of that doesn't come from me wanting some kind of approval. So I'm not giving you any solutions here yet, but I am saying, like, I totally get it. I feel it myself. And I agree with you that I think it is an epidemic.
I think it's also about not caring entirely what, cutting loose of, I don't care what people think, because that's its own kind of hustle as well, isn't it? And I think it's just caring differently what people think. That seems to me to be the kind of promised land of where we can get to with this topic. And I've come to a place of realizing that it's not that I don't care what people think. I care a lot about what people think, particularly certain people, but I include myself in that now too, whereas I didn't always. So, in the past, it might have been, we were just chatting before the call started about this guy that I used to date, and I really quite fancied him, and he was really into gorgonzola cheese. So I thought that to be accepted and to be good enough and to be a super cool girlfriend, that I had to love gorgonzola cheese too. So I was training myself at home to learn to love gorgonzola cheese, pinching my nostrils shut. Actually, you know what? In hindsight, when that relationship crashed and burned, I'm like, I bloody hate gorgonzola cheese. I'm never going to do that again. So it's also about, including yourself in the lineup of people who you care about.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that if there was a key or a secret to remove ourselves from people pleasing and this addiction to caring what people think, I think it's really starting to settle into the practice of understanding that at no point in our lives, in no situation, in no instance, in no relationship, is anything actually at risk about ourselves or our wholeness. Because I think that's what happens. Like if I do something to please somebody, it's because I feel like there's something at risk if I don't. Right. So it's just this belief that I have in my head that there's some part of my wholeness. And one of my favorite people in the world who has since passed away, Michelle Bauman, and I mentioned this quote from her in my book, says that your wholeness is not on a dimmer switch. Right. It can't be increased. Nobody can add to you and make you more whole. Nobody can take from you and make you less whole. And it's only when we have the misunderstanding that some part of our wholeness is at risk that I think we feel compelled to over people please or to overly need validation or approval from somebody else. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes total sense. I was just having a little eyes closed moment, letting that sink in. So how do you know? How do you know when you're in that place of feeling like something's at risk? I have my suspicions, but I just want to hear you say it.
How do you know? I mean, I feel like it's just a hit. I mean, I feel like it's an energy thing. I feel like if you tap into your body, which is not necessarily my strongest suit to do, but I know when I get into that place, I maybe feel some contraction in my chest, or I feel some heat, on my skin. I feel like I need to overcompensate for something. I need to take more off somebody's plate or offer them even more, not because I think it'll serve them, but because I think it'll serve me, because I think it's better for me or will make me look a certain way. So I think we all know in the moment, are we doing something because we actually want to serve somebody, or are we doing something because we're really, really afraid of something being taken away from us?
And I think there's that feeling of possible resentment that's the chaser to the overdoing or overgiving. It's just this, there's a lot of pursing the lips like a cat's bum, or just feeling generally radioactive afterwards. Like I need to do this, but I don't really want to do this. So it's I must do this, or I should do this. And this is one of my favorite words from your book is masturbation. Or shoulding all over ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, the masturbation thing is huge. I mean, we think there's all these things that we must do. And I think, again, like going back to this whole, the source is, to me, the source is so much more important than the course. Right. And so what I mean by that is like the source of why you're doing something is more important than the action you're taking. And so I think it's really important to recognize at any given moment that we're choosing things based on what we want to create or what we want to avoid. And so if we say, oh, I want to do this for somebody because I want to create something great in their lives. I want to create a sense of enjoyment and fulfillment in my life. I want to create a sense of creativity. Like if there's something I'm trying to create, that's a good sign. If we're saying, oh, I'm going to do this because I want to avoid being looked down upon. I want to avoid losing this person's approval. Like really kind of keying in, am I trying to create something that serves me, or am I trying to avoid something that's painful? That may tell you kind of what your motivation is for what you're doing.
And this goes back to one of the key themes of the brand new fabulous book you've just released, which I really enjoyed reading. Can you give us like a quick overview on this whole self-leader versus prisoner mindset? Because I think this is really critical to caring differently what people think about us.
Yeah, totally. And I appreciate that. Yeah. So the distinction in the book is about in any given moment. And that's the thing about all of the stuff we're talking about, whether it's working on, being a recovering people pleaser, which I'm right there with you. I'll see you at the meeting this afternoon. Whether it's that or it's weight loss, which is something that I also experienced a huge thing in my life. And also this distinction of being a prisoner versus a self-leader. It's always moment by moment. Right. This is never a thing where like you get it and you're done any more than, Steve Jobs was ever done innovating when he was alive, or Michael Jordan was done practicing his jump shot. Like you never come to a point where you're like, oh, cool, I got this. I can just go lay on a beach and everything just happens automatically. Like this is a lifelong practice. So the key of the book, the distinction in the book is that in any given moment, you have the choice to either be a prisoner of circumstance where life is using you, where your energy and your creativity are being leaked in non-productive ways, where you are people pleasing, where the most calm and conscious and courageous and creative versions of yourself are not able to shine because they're being weighed so heavily by the decisions and the appearance and the situations that are around you, which is how I lived my life for the first 30 years of it. That wasn't all or nothing for me for the first 30 years. Or you can make this other choice. And the other choice is to be a self-leader. And that's a leader in your life, a leader in your thoughts, a leader in your interpretations and explanations of the people and things that are around you, to really see that you have the power of productive interpretation, of changing the lens through which you view the things that are put in front of you, and how much power and how much creativity and how much energy and how much opportunity and how much possibility you recapture when you choose in that moment to exhibit that level or that approach to the situation. So it's a moment by moment thing. In this moment, am I going to be a prisoner or am I going to be a self-leader?
I like how you mentioned that it can be a daily practice as well, because I notice when I feel like I'm clenching and getting into that place of, well, I suppose the prisoner mindset is, I'm so tired of not being enlightened yet, as if it's a destination to get to. And it's this all or nothing thinking, isn't it, involved with the prisoner. And being in that prisoner mindset is really all about where we obsess about being worthy.
Mm-hmm.
But something that you mentioned in the book, you're talking about how self-leaders look at, or actually don't bother themselves too much with worthiness, and that they look at willingness instead of worthiness. Can you talk about that for a minute? That was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of what I got from being coached by the incredible Steve Chandler was this whole notion. I remember going to him and having a coaching session about worthiness, and how we really got to the core of the fact that, wanting to be worthy is really like, it's mental masturbation. It's self-indulgent bullshit. And I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, do whatever you like.
Okay, I'll try not to go any further than the S word. But it really is. It's very self-indulgent, and it's like, while I'm sitting here worrying about how worthy I am or I'm not, there are people in the world who I could serve. And I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. The person you serve could be your spouse. The person you serve could be your child. The person you serve could be a stranger or a homeless person or a coworker or your boss or your clients. Like, anytime we're stuck in this question of worthiness and needing validation and all these things, and there's plenty of science. And I actually shared a story in the book about the statistics, the statistical significance of you being who you are in this exact moment is incredible. But all science aside, like, it really is such a waste of creative energy to figure out if you're worthy. Screw that. Go out and serve somebody. Go show what an amazing human being you are by making somebody else's life happy or better by even 5%.
Very simple, but it's not easy. And I think when we're in that prisoner mode, it's really hard to be able to see above the parapet, because all the baddies are closing in, and all the voices in our heads, and we've all got them, are feeding that worthiness beast within us. And you're absolutely right. Seeking validation, it's a luxury. And it's a misuse of our creativity. It's a misuse of our mental energy. But the trouble is, we don't see that well when we're in that place, do we?
Right. And that's, you're absolutely right. And that's why That's why, and I'm laughing because, I've made jokes before that this book, I don't care if anybody writes it, it's for me. And I really mean that. Like, I can't tell you how many times since it's come out that I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling kind of down. I think I'm going to go read, chapter 9 because I really think that will help me. And I do. And I go back and read it because it's reminders for me too. So what I've noticed now that I've been practicing this for, 5 or 6 years is that it's a big part of this is recognizing in the moment much more quickly that I'm in prisoner mode and not beating myself up for being there. Right now, it's just an information point. Oh, cool. In this moment, I have chosen to be a prisoner. And the next thought may be, and you know what? I'm going to keep being a prisoner. Screw this. I don't want to reframe anything. I don't want to be a self-leader. I want to be a prisoner. But at least I'm admitting to myself that I am choosing to be a prisoner in that moment. And so that's fine. Be a prisoner, but don't blame that on anything else. Know that you're choosing that, and you can just as simply choose to be something else whenever you're ready to.
Yeah, it's just having that wobbler moment, and I want to stay radioactive for the time being. When I'm finished having my wobbler, then I'll come out when I'm ready. Blow a few raspberries.
And can I give you my $5 hack for completely getting out of being in this worthiness, upset nation trap? Okay.
Well, we'll translate that into £5 here.
5. So it might even be, it'd probably be like 2.5, 3 pounds. And you'll
I don't know. It's tanking here.
Oh, is it? Oh God. All right. We won't have a Brexit conversation.
No.
So this is what I do. So this is something I did on a whim one time, and now it's something that I do anytime I need to, which thankfully enough, because I've been practicing this long enough that I don't have to do it as much, but when I need to do it, it works wonders. So I take my $5 or my 3 pounds or my 73 pounds or whatever the thing is now, my 2 million pesos, my 27 million yen, and I go to Starbucks. And I know they have Starbucks in the UK. For those of you who are listening in countries that don't have Starbucks, you're lucky. You probably have good coffee. So I go to the Starbucks, and I'm just kidding, Starbucks, I love you. And I will go up to the register, and I will buy a $5 gift card. And they ring it up, they give me the gift card, and then what I do is I hand it to the barista, and I say, at some point during your shift today, you have to use this $5 gift card to pay for somebody else's coffee.
Oh, no way. I love it.
And they freaking love it. But the great thing is here is that, number one, I'm being of service and I'm seeing the immediate reaction of somebody I'm being of service to. Number two, I get to leave there knowing that I have absolutely guaranteed created a ripple of service because that person has committed to me that they will pay that forward without them having to spend any money. They get to have fun and play a game and say, ooh, who am I? Oh, that girl's cute. I'm going to buy her coffee. Like whatever it is, they get to have fun with that. And immediately just shifts my being. So that's my $5 hack to get out of despair.
It's a Mexican wave of kindness. I love it. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So another thing I love about how you wrote the book is how we can kind of catapult ourselves out of when we decide that we're in this prisoner mode. And one of the ways that you do this so often, and that's where I think you're my brother from another mother, is comedy and humor and experimentation, which there's so much in life that is too important to be taken too seriously. And I was telling you before the call that on another podcast that I did with Emma Stroud, who's a comedian and she does improvisation, she's such a hoot. We podcasted and she taught me a tip about whenever we're feeling in that place of hustling or overwhelm, or whenever we're just in a place where we don't want to be. So we might be crusty or whatever. So imagine yourself on fast play, dancing around to Benny Hill music. So, if I'm bustling around the kitchen and the kids are bickering and I'm developing this blinky facial tic and I'm about to lose it, then I just imagine myself going on fast play around, going around the kitchen, stirring the soup, setting the table, yelling at the kids, all with Benny Hill music on. It's actually impossible not to lighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually help anything to be crusty.
No.
So
But we've been raised to think it is. We've been raised to think that, especially as an adult, that unless you take things seriously, you're not an adult. Unless you take things seriously, you can't be effective. Unless you take things seriously, you can't be successful. And that's been drilled into our heads over and over and over again. And there are entrepreneurs out there now who have big names who I follow and I like, and I like some of the stuff they say, but they're kind of reinforcing this, like, you must take everything seriously, and especially in entrepreneurship. Like if you're sleeping, you're not a serious entrepreneur. I'm like, like, well, shit, I am so unserious as an entrepreneur. Then I got to get my 8 hours. So yeah, I think the lens of comedy is the number one thing that has helped me to transform my life and to get through the tough times that I still encounter on a daily and weekly and monthly basis in life and in business, is to make sure that I have access, to remember that I have access to this different lens through which I can view my circumstances. And so, putting Benny Hill music behind a challenging situation, I think is beautiful, because it just completely shifts your energy and your mindset. And another thing that I love to do, and I again, this is any exercise that I have now that I do with clients or that I use in workshops. Like, it's just stuff that I invented for me, because I was like, I got to do something. Like, in this moment, I feel like crap. How do I get out of this? And one of the things that I developed, and it's one of my favorite things to do now, is I call it winning through whining. Right? Winning through whining. And so what I do is when I'm like upset or overwhelmed or stressed or whatever about what's going on, I go full blown 3-year-old whining out loud about what I have going on. And typically, not only is it just funny, like the longer you do it, the funnier it gets, but you also start seeing like how grateful you could be for every single one of the things you're stressed about. And so the way this may look for me, and this literally just happened, like I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days ago, maybe a little longer, 4 or 5 days ago. And I'm sitting there and I have this crazy month of travel coming up. Like, I'm literally traveling 20 days next month to, different countries and doing talks and all this stuff. And I have talks to create, and I have, emails to respond to, and things to write, and just all these things to do. And I was getting really stressed. I was taking it all very, very seriously. And I'm the not so serious guy. So, it's kind of off brand for me to get super serious. Yeah. And so I said, okay, I got to try I got to drink my own medicine here and see if the winning through whining works. So I sit there, and my wife Alicia was in the next room, and she heard it and she cracked up. But I sit there, and out of nowhere I go, I have 2 talks to create, and I have to go to Mexico for AFAS, and then I have to go talk to people about living a not so serious life, and then I have to get people to interview for my master circle that helps all these coaches to be better at their jobs. And I do that, and like, I can't help but laugh at myself as I'm doing it. And all of a sudden it all becomes way less serious, and I can get back to work.
It's really great for people who work in the corporate world. They could try this as well.
I would love for people to have a whining room that was like a soundproof room. They'd go in there and just do that crap, but there'd be like a hidden camera where everybody out in the break room is watching them. I think that would be incredible.
Oh, it's so true. There is something about comedy that actually just bursts the bubble. But again, when we're in that place, when we're in that kind of sphinctered, clenched place, it's really hard to learn how to do that. Because have you ever tried to tell a joke to somebody who's in a toxic mood? Ooh, that's super dangerous. But how did you get to a place where you learned how to do that? I mean, I suppose comedy that we inflict upon ourselves can be a learned thing, but how, for somebody that's thinking, oh yeah, well, it's great for somebody funny like Jason, but I'm a morose, miserable person. How can I be funny? What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, that's what I love, because so a lot of people, you said funny or funny, comedic, all those kinds of things, which is, I think a big misconception that people think living a not so serious life means you need to be a stand-up comic. And it's really the real key to being a self-leader, to living a not so serious life, in my mind, is actually to be creative. And one of my favorite things that I like to say is that creativity is greater than circumstance. And so when people talk about I'm not creative, I'm this, morose person, and I see everything as bad, and I'm negative, or I'm just stressed all the time. That person is just as creative, if not more so, as I am finding things funny. Like, they've been able to create all these, detrimental, horrible, desperate, anxious, stressful thoughts. Like, they're just as creative as I am.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. That's very true.
And yeah, they're just misdirecting their creativity. So I love that. When people tell me they're not creative, I'm like, oh my God, you're like, Albert Einstein creative. You're Lady Gaga creative. You're just not directing it in the way that serves you. So I think it could be a really fun practice just to see, like, where's the comedy in everything? Where's the absurdity in everything? And whether it's, and you can do this by watching the news. I mean, this is the reason why during the presidential debates here, I was, doing commentary on Facebook the entire time. It was completely down the center. It wasn't anything for or against either either candidate. And it was literally just finding the comedy that was going on here. So I'm watching this, streams of people on Facebook. I can't believe he said that. I can't believe she said that. This country's in trouble. This country's dying. I'm moving to Canada. Like all these things are happening. People are just going crazy. And I'm literally sitting there eating the popcorn saying, oh my God, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So I think it's just a matter of practicing where you can find the absurdity in everything. It doesn't matter what it is. There is absurdity in everything.
Which reminds me of another great line from the book that I have highlighted and dog-eared. There's always something trying to emerge in conflict and discomfort. I think that could be one of the top lines of the book. And it's really important to remember that if something feels gross or clenchy or uncomfortable, it's like if you further clench, the thing that's trying to emerge can emerge. And I suppose it's allowing the discomfort to happen, first of all, and not fighting what is. And then being able to look at it with different lenses. I think we can get stuck in one way of seeing something and then think that is, air quotes, caps lock, reality, or that's the truth. Whereas, your wobbler in the other room saying, yeah, I'm going to Mexico is equally a truth, depending, that's if you're operating from that place. So if we bring all of this back to people pleasing, a lot of the energy that we invest, the creativity, and it's an interesting way of looking at it, the creativity that we invest in overriding our boundaries, in not honoring our self-leadership, it's all just misdirected. So it's not as if we don't have enough energy or enough time. It's just that we're hemorrhaging it in the wrong place. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, I totally agree with that. And I think boundaries also get a bad rap. I think that there's a difference between, I think a lot of people look at boundaries like brick walls, right? I feel like brick walls are meant to keep people out. Boundaries are meant to keep the right people in. Mm-hmm. And so if you're setting loving boundaries, you're showing people what you care about. And if you show people what you care about and they care about those same things, they're going to love you even way more than they ever would if you were faking your way through getting them to love you. So boundaries can be actually a really kind of stealthy way of people pleasing, because you can really kind of say, this is what I care about. And if you care about it too, we're good. We're in total alignment. And if you don't, that's okay. And it's one of the things that I've learned from Byron Katie, who I just love so much. And it's, that you can say, I love you and no. Like those two things go together. No doesn't mean I hate you and I wish you would die and you're so stupid for asking for that. Like no can be an addendum, a perfect addendum to, I hear you and no. Somebody asks you for something, I hear you and no. I'm grateful that you asked for that and no. I understand where you're coming from and no. I love you and no. And those things are all okay to do. And the sooner we start practicing that, and in my life, I've had to practice that a lot, and it's been very, very difficult. I hate to let people down. That's my thing. I like being the go-to person. I like being the person you can count on. And I have a lot of people reach out to me who, they have all this energy and all this enthusiasm, and they want to, quote, pick my brain, or they want to have a connecting call, or they want to do these things and just talk. And I love that. And I used to do this thing where I would completely let myself drown in requests, and I would say yes to everybody. And then what would happen? I would resent them because now they've, quote, taken my time when they didn't take anything. I gave it to them. They asked me for something, which was courageous on their part. And I met their courage with weakness by saying yes when I didn't want to say yes. So instead, when people ask me for things now, I say, wow, look how courageous they were to ask for it. I'm going to meet them with courage. And sometimes that courage says, yes, I would love to connect with you. And sometimes that courage says, I'm so grateful you reached out, and no, I won't be able to do that.
How interesting. So if we were going to look at this forensically and talk people through a quick play. Now I've got the quick play on now and I have Benny Hill stuck in my head. But if we were going to look at this whole people pleasing thing from start to finish and just let's co-create this, like give people some ideas of, if we were observing this, we see the people pleasing, how that, what would they notice about themselves? So some of this we probably have talked through, but just to summarize before we move on to something else. So as far from my side, and then you can jam on this too, is that there's this sense of feeling, it's almost like an impulse. I can't describe it any better than that. Like I must overgive and I must overdo because it's going to give me something. So there's this sense of incompleteness, but it's not even that obvious. I think in the heat of the moment, it's just feeling like it's an impulse. So for me, it's not usually, if I'm in that place, if the impulse strikes, it's not really a slower, more gentle, more whole-bodied, wholehearted wanting to give from a good place. It's more like an impulse, like must, should. Those are clues for me. And listeners might recognize that in themselves as well. What do you have to throw into that pile?
Yeah, I mean, all those, I could see all those being for me too. I think for me, there's another one of, wanting to be seen as nice, not wanting to be seen as mean, wanting to be seen as agreeable, wanting to be seen as easy to work with, wanting to be seen as valuable. I mean, yeah, all those things come up for me. Is like if somebody were to ask me something and I went into people pleaser mode, it would be, how could I, one of the things that was has been a big thing in my life in the past is what I call impression management. And I became extremely well skilled at impression management, managing people's impressions of me. So when I get in that spot, I want to control what they would say about me to somebody else after we're done talking. And that's like the most stressful prisoner place to be, is to try to control how they would talk about you, what they would think of you when they're done with the interaction.
Yeah. And I suppose it can be as simple as thinking the very words. Oh, there's a lot of wind through the teeth. Like, what would people think if I said that? If I did that thing, what would people think? So the wind through the teeth is also kind of a clue, followed quickly by the what would people think. So if we first of all recognize it, like you said, if we now move fast forward into the what can people do at that moment when they've recognized, aha, I'm in people pleaser mode. Let's get tipsy.
Yeah, I love that. So the first thing is, so obviously if we wanted to skip right to the end, it would be to say, I love you and no, right? Because I think that's really the place to get to. But I think there's an even easier first step than that. And the easiest way to deal with no's and never having to say no again, really, is to just really slow down on your yes. Right? If you really slow down on your yes. So somebody asks you for something and your immediate response is to say yes. You don't want to say no because that's way out of your comfort zone. Slow down on the yes. So somebody asks you for something and you get really curious. Shift into curiosity. Tell me more about that. Tell me how long do you think that's going to take? Is there anybody else that you could ask to help you with that if I'm not able to help? Like really slowing everything down. Or I'm not sure, I really need to check my schedule. And then you can go back and kind of figure out however you want to approach this. And now you're no longer in the moment, so you don't have to worry about saying the right thing or improving and having the perfect way to say no. Anything that can put space between their ask and your yes is going to put you in a much more powerful, courageous position to do what you actually want to do instead of doing what you think that you should do for them.
It's a really good point, because I think it's the heat of the moment that creeps up on us like cheap underpants, and then it's really uncomfortable in that moment. What am I going to do about this situation? So putting space between their ask and whatever it is that you're going to do about it. And I suppose building on that actually gets easier and you become more skilled actually at acting in the moment, even if you do have a bit of a mental wedgie in that moment, that you can actually learn how to say no without being a jerk.
Absolutely. And also at the same time, knowing that if your intention is not to be a jerk, you can't control how they receive your message. Right. So just because I say I love you and no doesn't mean somebody feels like I said I love you and no. And that's not my problem. Right. I can't control if they receive the I love you and no the same way it was sent. I can only control how I send it. So, of course, I could say no and feel like a jerk. Like, how dare you ask me for that? How dare you want something from me? You've never helped me. Last time I asked you for help, you said no. Like, all those things could totally cloud the way I approach what I say. But if I come from a clean place, again, clean source before the course, like you got to have your source has to be clean first. If you come with a clean source and you say whatever you say, your hands are now clean. There's nothing you can do to change the way they're going to receive that message. And one of the things that I'll do too that I really like, and I started doing this 6 or 7 months ago, and this is, I think, a great way to step in between, slow things down, and give yourself space and not have to say yes, is you use the phrase, and so you're going to write this down because this is a very complicated phrase.
I got my pen. I'm ready.
Okay, good. The phrase is, I have a policy. right? I have a policy. So somebody says, hey, is there a way that you can help me move this weekend? Well, I have a policy that I don't make any decisions about weekend stuff unless I talk to my wife first. Like, I have a policy, and then you can fill in whatever blanks you want. And when people hear I have a policy, they don't feel singled out. They now know this is a blanket thing that you use to make all your decisions, and they're much more apt to give you the time to figure it out.
I like that. That's very well thought out. So we've got 2 stepping stones in place. We're noticing, first of all, that we're in this place of people pleasing because it has this vibe to it. Second is to slow things down before you act. So create space between their ask and your response and implement the all-purpose, I have a policy. And then the third thing I think is, unless I've missed a step, it's more just like a practice, more of the same. So it's like a muscle. Practice your pleasing people differently muscles. And it's, for me anyway, it's going through this over and over and over again. It's just having a bit of a humorous discipline, and not hardcore discipline, but noticing, acting. And there's loads of times when I fall down and I end up hustling for worthiness and then feel gross about it afterwards and facepalm and think, I'm supposed to be a self-help person.
I'm right there with you.
But then, it's a lifetime practice, as you say. There's not, you don't arrive, you just get, there's less face palming happening, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it is a lifelong practice. It will continue to happen. I don't believe there will ever be a time. And there are some people I really believe that do that. Byron Katie, for one, I'm sure Steve Chandler for another. This thought just doesn't enter their head at all. And part of that could just be age and maturity. But whatever it is, that sounded like I said Asian maturity. I said age and maturity. I talk fast sometimes, so just in case I didn't want to offend anybody. So I think I think it's something that comes up a lot. But if you really want another step here, can I add kind of one more internal step? Okay. So I love what you said. So the acknowledgement, right? Recognizing that you're feeling this way and it feels kind of icky, or you feel like you're doing something because you must or you should. Really slowing down and not rushing to the yes, giving yourself that space, in between the event and the feeling, stepping in between those things, maybe using a blanket statement like I have a policy. And then after the fact, and you can either do this kind of, you can do it whenever, but after the fact, what I think is really helpful to do, and what's been really helpful for me personally, especially, and also for my clients, is to sit down and ask yourself, when I was in this spot where I wanted to rush to say yes, and I wanted to please them, and I was going through this thing within my own thoughts, what is it that I really wished they would tell me about me? Right? Like, what do I really wish they thought about me and they would tell me? And so, for example, if I want to say yes to something because I want somebody to say to me, man, I know that I can count on you no matter when I need something, then that's a cue for me to ask myself, do I really believe that I'm somebody who can be counted on? Like, do I really believe that I'm somebody who is their word is their bond, right? That they really have a high level of integrity, right? Like, am I somebody who I believe really has a high level of integrity? Because everything we want to hear, that we think we want to hear from somebody else, is something we just want to believe about ourselves, and it can come from us. So in that moment, if I say, man, if somebody said that to me, I would really feel like I was a valued person who has high integrity, then I want to turn that around to myself and say, well, do I think of myself as somebody with high integrity? Well, sometimes I do, but I realized I didn't go to the gym yesterday when I said I was going to go to the gym yesterday. So maybe I'm questioning just my own integrity in general. And if I really knew 100% that I was somebody with very high integrity, it wouldn't matter to me if somebody was able to validate and mirror that for me, because I would know it was true about myself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that it shouldn't be mixed up with that it doesn't hurt or sting or still feel unpleasant if somebody says something. And, of course, we can still get wounded from it. It's not that once you've mastered this or are well on your way to mastering this, that we become like Teflon. But it doesn't mean that we need to replay the scenario and we need to go down those rabbit holes of believing whatever it is that we've decided that story means about us. That other person could have been in prisoner mode and they're just lashing out at something. We don't need to carry that with us and make that part of our, prisoner toolkit.
Absolutely. And that's also where the role of compassion comes in for ourselves and for others. I mean, that's one of the things that's freed me up the most. When, I got an email yesterday, I'm going back and forth with, somebody over email. I won't even say what capacity they're in case they hear this, but they said something that immediately made me want to be triggered. They said something to the effect of that, something they think that I, quote, need to understand. Right. Mm-hmm. And immediately I got triggered, like, whoa, what do you mean I need to understand this? Right. Like, I don't need to understand anything. And I got like all diva mode and I was snapping my fingers and sucking my teeth. And then I went into compassion mode and I'm like, wow, I know what it feels like because I've been there in the past to say something like that to somebody because I felt so overwhelmed myself that I wish they would just get what I was saying so that I wouldn't have to waste more energy explaining it. I know what that feels like. And so when I can have compassion for being in a situation where I feel like that's the only way that I can respond in that moment, then all the emotional charge goes away and I can just send that person love.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And that's kind of getting to the Jedi level. And humor and compassion can be part of that practice. So noticing yourself masturbating and shooting all over yourself, slowing things down, that's the second bit, and then practicing, especially with the humor and compassion. JG, it's that time in the show. I'm now going to give you some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Okay. Do you have a rap line that feels like a mantra? I know you're a rap star.
That's a great question. So would it be one of my own or somebody else's?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Oh, crap. That makes it even worse. Okay. Oh man. So the first thing I thought of is a rap line that is a real rap line that I then changed and put in my book. And now I've changed it again and made a t-shirt out of it is Jay-Z. He says, I got 99 problems, but beep, ain't one. I'm sure you've heard the song before. Yeah. But that's not my line. The line that I will give you that's a rap line that I've now put on a shirt is I've got 99 problems and 98 of them don't actually exist.
Oh, brilliant. I love it.
That's my rap line.
Good answer. Best advice you ever received?
I gotta say it's been said to me at least 177 times from Steve Chandler in some way, shape, or form is relax.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really, the advice is relax, and relax may take the form of like slow down or don't take that so seriously, or it's not that big a deal. Don't sweat the small stuff. It all just comes down to relax. Chill out. CTFO, chill the F out.
You want to hear mine?
Yeah, I would love to.
This is from my mom. It just reminded me on the basis of something you just said. She taught me this. Don't sweat the petty and don't pet the sweaty.
And yet you didn't listen because I've seen Nina. She's here on this earth. So,
a skill that you wished you had.
A skill that I wish I had. Brevity.
I wish I could sing. I wish I could rap. Yeah.
See, I think you can. I really think that if you and I work together on your, because you're so poetic and you're such an amazing writer, that's 99% of being a rapper.
Okay, maybe that's going to be on my bucket list for 2017. Let's see. So I know that you buy gift cards at the coffee shop, but something else that you do, like a quick fix thing that you do to snap out of feeling crusty or irritated, or what do you do? What's some kind of a practice that you do?
Comedy. I have to watch comedy, and one of the ones that I'll go back to over and over. Sometimes it's like slapstick, stupid comedy, but one of the things that I go back to over and over and over again, that every time I watch it, I feel inspired and I just feel lighter and I feel happy, is Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. I watch that, especially like the Jim Carrey episode and the Trevor Noah episode, and there's a couple others that are just really, really good. And immediately I feel more creative, I feel more light, I feel more happy. So if you haven't seen Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, it's an incredible show.
Good. I will check it out. I read somewhere something similar, and I'm trying to use comedy. I use it a lot with the kids because, as I said, there are occasions when I can blow my top very quickly. So I read somewhere that you should say the word bubbles out loud. See, it works. Bubbles. So say the word bubbles because it's impossible to be angry and crusty and say the word bubbles.
Bubbles. I'm doing it, just so you know, I'm going to do it in a British accent and with my pinky in the air. Bubbles. Bubbles. It totally works. I love it. It totally works.
Okay, I'm going to give you a parting joke.
Okay. Oh, I got
this.
Is this one of yours or one of Nina's?
Well, I think you'll be able to. She is good. I think she's a comic in process. I learn a lot of jokes from her. So, what did the elephant and the snake say when they fell off the cliff together?
Oh God, I don't know what.
Ba-dum-bum. All right, I'm going to give it a go in preparation for 2017. Yo, 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 thanks for being on the show.
Yo, Mandy Leto. We came through with the flow and we spoke back and forth for like 40 minutes. It was really in between us. I feel like you're a genius. Every time we jump on Skype or we just talk and we type back and forth, it's like we're on the same course with a lot of force. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. How can people find out more about you?
Best ways to find me are at my website, thejasongoldberg.com. jasongoldberg.com was taken, so I wanted to be as pretentious as possible. So I got thejasongoldberg.com. And also you can check out the soon to be launched Not So Serious University at notsoseriousU.com.
Fantastic. And just a quick 30-second plug on your book.
Yeah, go check out Prison Break. It's really cool. It's hit #1 in leadership and motivation in 12 different countries. I can't even name 12 different countries, so I'm not sure how that happened. And you can get that by going to Amazon. And the quick link to find it also is thejasongoldberg.com/Prison Break, all one word. And it'll take you right to Amazon. You can pick it up. It's a lot of fun. It's an easy read, and I hope you love it.
One parting thought, JG.
Honestly, the parting thought that's coming up for me is that I'm really grateful for you, Mandy. The way you show up in the world, you bring so much energy and so much fun and so much value. And I so honor our conversations on and off the podcast forum. And I'm just really just loving what you do in the world and grateful to have you as a part of my team and my people and my tribe. So thank you. That's my parting thought, is that I love you. You're awesome.
Love you too. Thanks for being here. That was a lot of fun. My first rap in public.
You did amazing.
Thanks very much, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you found anything really useful and interesting, I'd be really grateful if you could head over to iTunes and give it a rating. And also, who do you know who'd really benefit from this episode? Be someone's day maker and forward them the link. Thanks again for stopping by. This is Mandy Leto signing off from MoxieCast.